Cool. Thank you, Gary, for the introduction. As you heard, I'm Colin Stanley. I've been working with Tariq and Prof. Ventures here in, so our research is called Indigenous Knowledge in Digital World. So that's what we go by. And I know in your side it's afternoon, but here in Namibia it's good morning. So, so now my presentation called Mutual Beneficial Embedded Community Engagement Conditions for Co-Design. And then I'll touch on African theoretical context. That will be the focus. And going forward, my apologies, I will be switching off my video. I just wanted to for you to see who's speaking. All right, so I'll stop the video and then go through my presentation. All right, so I will provide a background of our work and so that you, when I'm going through the methods, you have an understanding what I'm talking about. Well, I really enjoyed the previous presenters because I could relate quite a lot on the discussions. So pretty much similar concept that we've been applying. Then obviously I will touch on the African theoretical context and then the methodology that we have taken so that you can see the methods that I will later discuss, how they were carried out in the method, and then conclusion. So without wasting time, I will jump into giving you a background on how we have been working with the communities, and especially this work was part of my PhD studies. So there is an application that was co-created with the Ovaherero communities. So the application is called the Homestead Creator. So a 3D visual application that allows you to drop 3D models on the environment. And the whole idea is to visualize, to show the youth, the elders now showing the youth how a typical Ovaherero homestead is constructed. So there is a lot of knowledge in that just construction that is shared. For example, a house should face a certain direction, only the door should face on the sun or on the sunset. The fence area for the cattle should be in front. So there is a lot of knowledge around just the service itself. Certain people should not walk at this certain area, so even visitors should be aware of that. So great, Caspar Odile developed this application as part of his PhD. And then the question for us came later, how do we transfer this homestead creator to another community? And then we took a similar community with similar cultures, which is called Ovahimba. So the Ovahimba communities are slightly different from the Ovaherero community, although they speak the same language, but on the traditions, there's quite big significance. For example, here on the left, you can see this is the Ovaherero homestead, and this one is the Ovahimba homestead. And then great, we thought, okay, obviously now we need to replace these three models that were best fitted for the Ovahimba communities. And how do we go about that? We don't have local graphic designers. Perhaps let's use crowdsourcing. Wonderful idea. But then, big question, how do we get the rural communities to crowdsource these three models? From me, as I was introduced, coming from the software engineering background, I thought, oh, this is a very straightforward job. We just create a website and then the communities will use this website. To my little knowledge, did I realize that that's not an easy task. The communities need to know how to use that application. That application might not be in context of them, or they might not find it useful. So that's why there was a big question mark right here that we needed to put a platform that the communities can partake in the crowdsourcing platform. So great, then we said, okay, let's now try to tackle this problem. So, and from there now I will pause on that and then I will continue later on how we solve that problem. Now what I'm sharing with you is the theoretical framework underpinning our research study. So you might have heard of something called Afrocentricity or Afrocentrism. So this comes from the Afro-Americans, as under popular for publishing this concept, which resonates well with the African research paradigm. So we borrowed that from the Afro-American, and then it's all about locating students within the context of their culture so that they have better reference to understand things better. Now, so Afro combined with centricity, therefore Afrocentricity. So there, the careful analysis of Afrocentricity definition points to one thing: African view of knowledge that is interrelated to the universe. So already I was hearing that, you know, we must understand the ecosystem that we are operating, especially when we are in the community. So it's from those theoretical background that we operate our research. And so what Asante have done, recommend two methodological tactics. So introspection and retrospection. So introspection, who am I, considering the historical, the social, and the cultural underpinning of political background, because that sometimes influence how you engage with the communities. And also you should have a retrospection, interpretation of the research findings. So did any of the obstacles do exist in the analysis of the data? Life experiences facilitated or hindered in the data interpretation. So afterwards, you need to really also do a retrospection and find out, did it change? Did you really learn something? If you can't really have retrospection, you need to question yourself why you have undertook that study. And then Bakela also suggests the following: ethics are culturally defined and have an indigenous African code. So now I'm looking at the application of that Afrocentricity. So we must create guidelines and ensure solid inclusion of native African views. Research methods and styles are culturally acceptable. So that's what Bakela also suggests. And also some of our colleagues also said, recommended a human-computer Afrocentric interaction paradigm when we are busy with our human-computer interaction. And so then we took Refire, who proposed five general rules, canons. And these 5 rules says that, okay, the truth of the communities, that's rule number 1. So that's the truth of the communities, that's your input to your knowledge. And then also justice, avoid creating divisions in the communities. And then thirdly, harmony, uhaki, fair research procedure. So whatever you do in your research procedures, they should be fair. Uyahama, familyhood. So maintenance of the community is mandatory. And that is sometimes in a SADC is referred to as Ubuntu. In our language, we call it Oundu. And then lastly, the 5th canon, knowledge construction commitment, we must embrace subjectivity. Now, obviously, there are also researchers that argue against the Afrocentricity. For example, Ukuchal Shilmikvatel, I mean, how I pronounce that word, argue that individuality of true personhood. So he argued that you need true individuality. So he argues that Africans communalism blocks or lacks the process of individual actualization. And to establish responsibility, one should use true individuality to critically examine the merits of his or her culture. So obviously we don't agree with that reasoning. So we go with Ubuntu, derived from the Guni languages that I've spoken about. Just a quick, if you look at that definition, it actually underpinning a lot of things: kindness, harmony, considerate, respect, peace, love, caring. So that's what we praise for. And also now a bit of comparison on the Ubuntu versus the Western theories. You might have heard of René Descartes in 1969 said, to accept anything to be true, it must be right, and that it is right in itself. So his theory brought about this statement, I think, therefore I am. You see, it's a bit different from the Ubuntu concept. So Peterson said that Western approaches emphasize on logic, individual personal growth, independence, innovation, performance, responsibility, and achievement, and pay less attention to the daily social and communal aspects of life. So evolution of sympathy or empathy theory by Darwin, origin of compassion was initiated by witnessing pain or distress of another person. So that's the argument there. You need empathy once you feel someone is in pain. But I think in the Ubuntu, we say someone doesn't need to ask for help, you just need to help them. And so you don't, you need, for example, a very famous one by Desmond Tutu, I need you to be you for me to be me. I need you to be full for me to be me. So a very good analogy on the Ubuntu aspect. Now, quickly on Ubuntu in computer science, I think we have seen popular concept of Ubuntu Linux operating system by having it open, the concept of sharing. And also Blake mentioned that real essential values of African community can only be put in software engineering method if Ubuntu values are incorporated. So also Bidwell proposed that Africa inclusion strategy should be considered in the social network science interactions. And also we need to combine technical skills and graphic design, human-centered design theories, and Ubuntu to come up with good design. So once we combine these technical skills and graphic skills and human-centered design theories and Ubuntu. And then also we have our colleague that looked at Ubuntu uplifted in the co-design within Namibian indigenous communities. All right, so now I'll quickly move to the research methodology that we have carried out. We call it community-based co-design. So community, group of people, not individuals, but still this group is diverse, having subgroups, but imagine working with such a group. And then obviously co-design, collective creativity, people with different backgrounds and skills constructively putting ideas together and so that their differences are considered equally in solving the problem. So there is a concept of the market share now to share knowledge, not the market share that we are known to. Now, so we obviously have carried that community-based design in co-design in action research approach. So remember that action research consists of 3 elements: framework of ideas and concept, and a way of applying those ideas in an area of interest. So in this context of our research, we said, okay, our framework of ideas and concept is the crowdsourcing and the task request formulation. So to allow the communities to formulate the request, and the 3D model evaluations. And then obviously a way of applying these ideas was community-based co-design. And then area of interest, we want to safeguard the cultural heritage. That's our main interest. Right, so we came up with these questions. What are the necessary conditions to establish and maintain a beneficial embedded community engagement? And what are the suitable methods for technology co-design? So now I want to unpack those 2 questions going forward. Obviously, going back on the action, so we followed these cycles. So the first cycle, we really wanted to understand the crowdsourcing conceptualization from the communities. And the second cycle, we wanted to now co-design the application, this crowdsourcing task request management application from once we have understood what the communities, what is crowdsourcing in their context, and then also now simulate the creation of the 3D models. All right, so back to the selected communities, and I'm part of these communities, proudly a Chiharo speaker. So you see, we worked with 3 communities. So here I'm here at Windhoek, but close to Windhoek is Okomakwara. So they are Oshiro speakers, and also from Eringiro Ukambe. So one of our core researchers, Mr. Kapwire, is from Eringiro Ukambe. And then this is where the homestead creator was co-created with the communities. And now we wanted this home creator to transfer it to Opuo. Opuo is northwestern of Namibia, close to Angola. So, and that's a village called Ochitha. And we work with the communities from the Ovahimba communities. So you see, these are this, although they speak the same language, you can see in the dress attire, there is quite a difference. So here is more of Victorian type of dress codes. The popular hat that is worn by women. And then you see here they have other ways of presenting their culture. So they have more animal skins and more stuck to the old ways of wearing. So that's what we worked with. Now, data collection and co-design techniques that we've undertaken, so obviously collected by focus group discussions, storytelling, very important, and photo taking, obviously. But to note here is that the communities also want to be visible and part of the pictures. So, and sometimes when we go back and ask them again, they always ask us, why do you guys keep on asking the same question? We already agreed that you don't need to hide our faces. We want to be equal partners in the research. And then obviously also the co-design methods that I will now talk about them in more detail going forward. So understanding, we use design or technology probes, understand the needs and desires of users in the real world situation. And sometimes that was just to spark the co-design aspect, and testing the technology inspire co-designers about the new technology. Obviously, we use also card sorting, affinity diagrams, paper prototyping, drawings, and also very important, we use working in design. So communities at times told us, no, get up, let me show you how we do it. Perhaps you have a better understanding what we are talking about. And then also what worked quite very well was traditional objects of any that they use it in Pronto. So in Pronto, so that they themselves just used out of their own willing. You say, no, we are struggling to get you, but bring my calabash. Let me show you, perhaps you will understand better. So that also worked quite well. And then also on our data analysis, so we use obviously a collaborative approach that tries to represent views from all stakeholders, as I defined that we worked with communities. And then also it was a hybrid, taking from the literature, deductive, and also the field reports to better analyze the data. So obviously using qualitative data analysis, we use NVivo. So that diagram is just to visualize the coding of different field reports. All right, now going back to the first cycle. So here we wanted the communities to conceptualize crowdsourcing. What is crowdsourcing in their context? Remember that helping each other for free in their communities is common. When they are, for example, someone is building a hut and any other person from the community can join and don't expect payment. But now if we explain this also, that there are people out there in the world and these people are not physically here, they would like to help you to preserve or to safeguard your knowledge. It was something completely new to them. And it was quite interesting to really now try to get this concept and say, we visualize that, okay, let's say you take a drawing and out of this drawing, there comes this thing that is 3D, and then you need to accept and say you are happy with it or not. Don't worry about the images. This was pre-COVID, some years back. It's not the latest workshops that we've undertaken. So, and then obviously using persona creation. Then fine, in this first round, when we were quite surprised by what we came out with the first 3D model. Some of them, they were saying, well, it's perfect, it's very nice, it's too nice. Perhaps it doesn't fully show what we want, but it's fine, let's keep it, for example, the hat. But then our Ovahimba woman, strange question came to us and said, why is the model naked? And that was very surprising to us, because for us, they don't wear a lot of clothes. And they told us, no, because you are missing the most important aspects is the dress attire details on that. So we learned that graphic designers were putting emphasis on other things while the communities were putting emphasis on other things. So you see here, the front part here is one is flat, but here it's having a lot of information and details on the dress code. So, and then also on this, initially I said we thought we have a website, but then we take the mainstream multimedia collection and said to the communities, okay, let's now you take multimedia, take images, take record video, and then just giving them this interface, user interface. They said, oh, Colin, what is this thing for? I said, no, if you touch on that, it was now a tablet. If you touch on it, you need to record your voice. I said, and you could see the reaction of the community that we worked with for years. So he already said, no, what is that? So you could see the frustration of him trying to use the application. And then we sat down with him and said, okay, what would you like to be in the interface so that it's meaningful for you? He said, well, if I have to speak, why don't you put a mouth? Then I will just press then I will know I need to say something. And then similarly, if I want to take a picture, just put an eye. And initially this was changed later. If you want to video record, put feet to indicate that's movement. To draw, put this. I mean, this will make more sense to me. Great, so that was a big lesson for me as a software engineer coming from that background, that, you know, we sometimes take these simple icons for granted, but there is a deeper meaning or a better understanding. And then, so we changed the interface. And then also on the crowdsourcing task management application, they said, okay, put this for us because this makes more sense to us. So finally, this is a home icon. This is to create the task request because we put things in the bag. And if you want to view the things in the bag, we open up the bag, modify the knife to modify what we've created, and then the calabash to send. So, and all of them were not really about underpinning functionality. It was also about the pride to visualize their culture. And then, for example, to formulate, you say, you make this drawing, and then this feast is for saving, and this is not for saving. And this is now tapped the open bag now to view the request. So we proceeded and worked on this task management application. And then also we took it to Denmark, just simulating how the graphic designers will create a 3D model given an image of the traditional artifact. For example, we took this is a headrest, and then we gave them the actual thing, and then some of them were not actual, some images. And then you could see the difficulties of them trying to draw these things without proper understanding of usage, the actual length in real life, and how is it used. So there we learned that if you want someone to model something, it's very important for them also to have the background understanding of what it is and what it's used for. And then, so coming back now to the last part of the presentation is the first question, the beneficial embedded community engagement. So you notice that I started with the African theories, and I believe every community or every nation has their own theory on how they should approach. So Afrocentric research approach, that's what you should do. And community engagement through Ubuntu, and mutual learning and knowledge creation, very important. Everyone should learn from this interaction. Community-based co-design process that I'm going to outline, and then understanding of ethics and copyright from the community's viewpoint. Right, so the first one now, the Afrocentric research approach. What we have devised is that, right, your input into your process is the lived experiences. Your lived experiences, especially also the community's lived experiences, is tested over years. We don't need to experiment to test it again, whether what the communities are telling us is true or not. And then while we are doing this research process, let's have peace and harmony, and then our co-created knowledge, and also we should embrace subjectivity. So the output is knowledge. I mean, we're all doing this to have some output. So that is on the Afrocentrism. And then community engagement through Ubuntu. So contact person, especially when you're entering the community for the first time, have someone that is of that community that can tell you about the protocol and how to engage with the communities. So recognition of the traditional leadership, greetings, how human you are, and establish social bonds. So the greetings is very important, longer greetings, and sometimes you need to understand in their language, we have very good familyhood. So it's very important to know how you are related before you can proceed. And respect for elders in learning. So this came out very important, that if you are not respectful, how can I transfer the knowledge to you? And then build a friendship that nourished. So the community used to call us, and then I used to panic at the beginning and I'm seeing a call from one of the community co-designers. I would think that maybe the tablet is broken or something. Then he said, no, Colin, I'm just greeting you. That was for me also something new. And so on mutual learning and knowledge creation, so learn that everything does not have to make sense for us. That was something that I really needed to relearn. It's like reflexive thinking and cross-examination. So, and this is what really came out from us. And also very important, we devised this process. You see, you have your introduction and project establishment, but why don't we have MOU, similar to what we have do of the universities, but we should have MOUs with the communities that is flexible, that is changed whenever the need arises. And so we joint design and then technology development, testing, obviously the refinement. So this is what we also proposed in the co-design process. And then very important, ethics and copyright from ICAP holder's perspective. Copyright, something that is not tangible for them. For example, we asked one of the co-designers, the elders, what about the images that you have given to people on the internet? And his remarks was, why are you asking me about something that I've given to someone? In my culture, if I give you something, I don't ask about how you use it. It's your ownership now. So that for us also a bit different understanding on ownership. So they also mentioned that specific information not for public and accurate representation of their culture. So for example, you have individual accounts on crowdsourcing platform, but they wanted a group account. And this group account is having a representative of a youth representing the elders. So totally different understanding for what we needed to learn. So co-design, also very important, as sometimes when people are silent, embrace that silence, so that's the time for people to really think, and then also try to handle conflict resolution early as possible, because there will always be conflicts, and then constraint of technological terms. So we needed to explain things several times because we don't have a local name for it. For example, in my language, to take a video, to take a picture, to draw, it's the same word. So in coming into conclusion now, so what we have established is something to say that, okay, if you want to do all this very well, your foundation is your own two principle, where you really need to have respect and you need to be selfless, you need to learn to share. So if that is not in act, you cannot proceed to the second layer. You cannot even talk about Afrocentricity to construct knowledge. And then you cannot even take your action research or whatever what type of methodology you are taking, and then whatever method you are talking. You see, the community-based co-design is a top, but what is very important is own and then building up all these. So that's what we came up with through our studies. So on that, I hope I was not over my time. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Colin. Thank you, Dr. Colin. Yeah, so I think it's a very exciting research, because I feel very excited because Dr. Colin research is very much related to my research. So I would like to open it for everyone. If any questions do you all want to ask about Dr. Colin, for Dr. Colin's talk? Yeah. Anything? Yeah. So maybe I can just ask one question for Dr. Colin.
Yes.
Dr. Colin, for the conflict resolution, I must suspect when we do a lot of research with the community, we always have this conflict issue coming in. Sometimes even like what Dr. Colin said, taking a photo is become a conflict to the community. So how actually Dr. Colin actually solve it based on your experience?
Yeah, so we needed to learn how the communities operate, even for some of us that come from the community, and also moreover for colleagues that come from outside. So we know why the picture for us is something sensitive, because we know that something bad can be done to them, to the images. But from the community's perspective was, we want to be like you. If you are writing about us, we should first of all be mentioned by names, not just to say community elders. So you need to mention their names, and then also their pictures. Why would you want to blur it and or not hide and hide it? It should be visible for the public to know that we are also part of this good work that is safeguarding our indigenous knowledge. So that already for us was okay. So we know that in our area it's very something that we need to ask again. But the community said, no, we have mutual trust now. You have asked us that 3 months ago when you came to visit us. Why are you asking us again? So, and only once we are dealing with new communities, we ask them that, and for those that we built a strong bond, and they said, no, we have agreement. Why don't you trust us? It's a long-term relationship. Every time you don't ask something that we have agreed and said yes, and now you are going back. So that was one of the, now going back to answer your questions on conflict, this is something very difficult. You can't have a solution to it. Sorry about that. So you have to really try to understand the assumption why someone is having that, why you're having that conflict, and really have an open dialogue and open discussion. And sometimes you can just hear that maybe there was just a misunderstanding, and then sometimes also just a language barrier, so and culture differences. So try to be open about it and have an open dialogue on conflict resolution.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Colin. Yeah.
Gary, hello, Gary. I have a question as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Stanley, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Just touching back on the answer you gave for Gary's question, you mentioned now this level of trust and whatnot. Is there perhaps a specific framework that has been established pertaining to the interactions with the community, whereby there's, for instance, level 1, where is now the initial interactions, and there is perhaps a level 2, level 3, and level 4 as you collaborate with these communities over an extended period of time. And equally, how do you encompass the evolution whereby the communities are also changing their ways in certain manners, and also equally the researchers are also changing their ways?
Yes, Chris, thank you for the question. There are certain codes, for example, there's some codes that have been developed from South Africa that also talk a bit like that but it's on high level guidelines. So I think some of our work that has been published also tackle on that. You need to go through those stages and then try to take it a step at a time to really understand the communities, and you don't just rush into finding your result. It's about really building that trust and then moving forward. And even sometimes, even if you've pulled out of the research community, also to have that contact and continue to dialogue, even if you are not doing research anymore. Yeah, so I think it's for us now to put those. I know of people that have been researching on that areas. So I think they are working in progress on that.